you guys, my name is Cyan Gore and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have an exciting video because there have been a few new releases that I have been wanting to pick up, so that's what we're doing. One of them literally doesn't even come out until tomorrow, so I am super excited for that one. But the first one that we're going to start off with may actually come as a surprise, and that is Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. I'm even surprised that I picked this up. I loved Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. However, I am not one of the Credence fans out there. So I really thought based on the title that this was going to be leaning towards more of a Credence type of book. Because I mean, Five Brothers, that title, and it's Penelope Douglas, so it's going to be spicy. I think we're all expecting a certain type of romance in here, right? I don't really care to read about that, but I did see a TikTok of a girl say that this book has a really good plot and that it is not at all what people are expecting based off of the title, and she really got me. She really convinced me, so let's hope that I do end up enjoying this book, because if not, I will never listen to another recommendation from BookTok ever again. Good morning, everyone. So I am 50%, a little bit more than 50% of the way through Five Brothers, and I can already tell I don't think I'm gonna like this book. Here's the thing. We are following Christian. I just say Christian. It's spelled like Chris and Jen, so every time I read it, I think of Kris Jenner. We are following her. She is from an upper class family in Florida, and then across the tracks is the lower class. She's originally dating this guy named Trace, and he's from the lower class part of town. So one night they cut things off, but she ends up having a flat tire, so she still spends the night at his house on the couch and ends up hooking up with one of his other four brothers. She doesn't know which one it is. So now we're following her as she kind of like becomes integrated into this family. The five brothers are on their own. They've always just kind of looked out for one another, and they kind of rule this side of town. Like, there's a restaurant that they pretty much own, the car shop, everyone comes to them for everything. They're just like really important. She starts to become part of that. Like, she's working at the restaurant or diner that they own. She's getting to know the people on this side of the tracks, but at the same time her rich family is trying to marry her off to an older rich man, and her parents are both shitty, so she's trying to take care of her two siblings. She has a sister and a brother. I will give it this. It's not lacking a plot. There's almost like too much going on at one time. I'm still not liking the romance aspect of it. I understand that if you're gonna read a Penelope Douglas book, she does love to do taboo topics. Here's the thing. I wouldn't care if she hooked up with five best friends. It is the fact that they're brothers that kind of bothers me, because for instance, if I had four sisters and there was one guy that was just sleeping with all of us and also at the same time kind of trying to become our mother and making all five of us pretty much fall in love with him, gross. I would not like that. And then the way they talk about her, like they kind of make jokes about them all at some point sleeping with her, and they also sometimes when they're angry with her will make a degrading remark about the fact that she has slept with all of them, just about. I don't like it. It is definitely reminding me a lot more of Credence, and that's another thing with Credence that I did not mind. I didn't mind the tabooness of the fact that, like, if you didn't know, in Credence our main character does hook up with her step uncle and step cousins, and like the step relation doesn't bother me because they're not technically related. What bothers me is the fact that it's three family members, and like in here it's five. There are so many other people. Why are you staying within a family and kind of like dividing them? I mean, obviously they don't ever care in the books, they're just kind of like okay with it, but I don't like it. Like, why couldn't it be five best friends? Then I would be so okay with it, but the fact that the boys are related is what bothers me. So yeah, but I'm gonna finish it up because I am interested to see. There's also like the angst of trying to figure out which brother in the beginning she did hook up with and didn't know which one it was, and I know, okay, I know who the brother's gonna end up being, but I just want to like confirm, I guess. So we're gonna figure this out together. So I have finished Five Brothers, and as predicted, this book was terrible. I don't care that she is sleeping with 4 out of the 5 brothers. It's the way they go about it. Like at one point, one of the brothers literally says, "It's my turn," when she doesn't even want to. And also, like, the reason why she sleeps with each of these brothers, it just gets on my nerves. Like, for instance, one of them, he is going to prison, and she's like, "Well, let me give him this one night before he goes to prison." Weird. I also hate the concept, and it's not just her that does this, but a lot of authors do this, where a guy is sad and broken and let me sleep with him and it'll just fix all of his years of trauma and heartbreak and emotional damage if I just sleep with this man. No, that's not how that works. Everyone in this book needs to go to therapy, to be honest. And also, the world of it kind of felt like Riverdale when it got really, really bad. Like, no, there's no random singing or like random magic or loopholes or anything, but it just felt that kind of cringiness. Like, why are these 5 semi-young brothers? They are different age ranges, but like they're still pretty young. How are they just like running this whole side of town? Doesn't make sense to me. I did not like this at all, so I think it's gonna be like a 2-star read. Now, I know if you're not liking a book, you shouldn't keep reading. For some reason, I guess I just like to torture myself, so that's why I kept reading it. I really don't know. But there you have it. I finished it. Do I wish kind of that I could go back in time and not waste a single second reading this book? Honestly, yeah, I do. But that's enough of me hating on that book. No hate to Penelope Douglas. It's just, I think her writing style is not for me. But if you are a fan of Credence, I do think you'd like this book. And also there's another book that in the very beginning she says it's in the same world as this book, that you don't have to read the other book before you read this one. And I forget what that book is. It's Tryst 6 Venom. It's not necessary, but it would be helpful if you want to read this one. So if you also liked that book and you read it, Tryst 6 Venom, you're probably gonna like this book. But yeah, that's about enough for me. I kind of do want to read the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas, but that's about it. I don't think I'll read much more from her, if I'm being honest. But that's just my thoughts. Now I have another new release, and we're going in a completely different direction. I am gonna have to start it on my Kindle because it hasn't been delivered yet. I think it should be here by the end of the day though, and that is The Hunted Heir. The first book was The Veiled Kingdom, I believe. It's by Holly Renee, and I really liked the first book. Now, when I read it, I was kind of getting into a slump, and it helped me get out of it because it's one of those fantasies where you don't have to use a lot of brain power. I do think the series is really good if you're someone who's just getting into fantasy, or you want something, like I said, that doesn't require a lot of brain power. You just want a fun, fast-paced, short and sweet fantasy. It does follow a storyline that I have definitely seen a million times. I mean, a lot of fantasies kind of do. It's kind of difficult to create new concepts, but it was done in a way where I wasn't bored and it didn't feel necessarily like I was just rereading something I've already read. So I'm excited to get into this one, and hopefully it's good. I will have to kind of read a little bit of the second book before I can tell you what the first one was even about, because honestly, I don't remember. I need a bit of a refresher. So let's get started with The Hunted Heir. Okay, so I did make it a little bit over halfway through The Hunted Heir. I'm going to talk about the very first book because I feel like I don't want to spoil anything that happened in this one. In the very first book, we're following Verena. She is a princess who has no magic, and her father is kind of like a tyrant king. No one really likes him. Her whole life, she was hidden away. She escapes the castle one night because obviously her dad is just terrible. Everyone in fantasies, I feel like, always has daddy issues, but she ends up running away, and then she gets imprisoned for something, and she ends up getting broken out of the prison by is it rebellion group? Resistance. The Resistance. They capture her. Because basically what they do is they save prisoners, and they give them 2 options. You can either help them fight for the Resistance, or So she is now part of the resistance, but she still has no powers, and Dacre is the one that's like the commander of the resistance. Well, his father is, and he's the one that's responsible for training all the people that are going to be part of this group. So he is in charge of training her. Obviously, you know, a fantasy romance. There's some romance that starts going on, but the way that book ended was a huge turning point for their story, and it just honestly took my breath away. I understand if you read it, it is not the most profound plot twist in the world, but I was kind of just not expecting it, and I was like, oh wow, at the time. So I had high hopes going into this one, but honestly, this one so far, it starts off as kind of like a cat and mouse chase thing going on, but I expected the two main characters to not have as strong of a relationship because of the way the last book left off, but it kind of just switches over really quick, and I did not like that at all. I feel like this book is just not doing it for me like the first one did. Now, I will say, I didn't expect it to be the best fantasy in the world because the first one wasn't. It was just a fun time for me, and I really enjoyed it. But this one just feels like it was kind of rushed. It feels like there's not really much going on at all, and I don't really care what happens. Sometimes I feel like I'm just reading words on a page. I'm not even fully comprehending what's happening. Like, it's not confusing. You don't have to use a lot of brain power, like I said, but it's just that there's not much going on, so it's not really keeping my focus. But I'm gonna finish it up today, but I don't have high hopes for it, so we'll see. So here's the thing. I knew that this wasn't going to be the best fantasy romance ever. I feel like maybe when I read the first one, I was just overly excited because I was coming out of a slump, and it kind of helped me with that. And I didn't have the highest expectations. I wasn't expecting much, but I was expecting more than we were given. It just fell very flat for me. I think that it ends on a good cliffhanger, so I will continue the series. I think it's only going to be a trilogy, so there's only going to be one more book after this. And I'm also trying not to be too harsh on it. It was a letdown compared to the first one and what I remember. Maybe I need to reread that one, and maybe it probably wasn't as good as I thought it was in my head. But yeah, this one it wasn't it. But it is less than 300 pages. It's like 280 or something like that. So in my mind, I'm just gonna say that this was a novella, and it did what it needed to do. It added a little bit more to the story. It did kind of thicken the plot at the very end, so now I can see where the third one might be a lot more interesting than this one. So I'm not gonna be too tough, and I am gonna continue the series because I want to see what happens in this world, but it's just like a 3. It's okay. I feel like most of the time I wasn't really invested in this story, but hopefully it gets better. But now we're moving on to another book, and I actually got this one kind of early because I think Barnes & Noble has been recently doing that thing where they're releasing books before their release date. So I'm pretty sure I got this one on like the 17th, and it's not even out yet. I think it comes out on like the 27th of August or something. But this is Daydream by Hannah Grace. By the time you see this video, it will probably already be out. But it's an anticipated new release. When I saw it, I immediately picked it up because I didn't even know that it was going to be released. I did like Icebreaker. I know a lot of people like to hate on it, but it was the first hockey romance I ever actually read when I first got back into reading. So I did like Icebreaker. I think I liked Wildfire better than Icebreaker. And now we're on to this one. I have already seen some people read and review this book, and they were saying that they were kind of disappointed because Henry's character is a lot different than they were imagining. But I'm gonna be so honest. I don't know this man. I do not remember who Henry is. I do think it's a pretty big cast of characters because they have the hockey team and everything, so I really don't remember him. And I'm kind of just going in with the blank canvas, and to me it's going to be like I'm introduced to a whole new character. So I have no expectations for Henry's character. I don't believe we have met our female main character at all. I'm excited. We'll see what happens. I honestly hope there's no Taylor Swift references because I know people were saying this is like the Taylor Swift cardigan, and I like Taylor Swift's music, but I'm not a huge Swiftie, and I don't really want to read a book with a lot of references. So sorry if that upsets you guys. Hello everyone. So it's actually been a couple of days later. I took a little bit of a break and I did do a 24-hour readathon, which you guys will have definitely seen before this video, but I have now made it 50% of the way through Daydream. In this book, we are following Hallie and Henry. Hallie is going through a few things. So first off, she's going through a breakup. She is dating Henry's like rival on a different hockey team from a different school, and she's kind of dealing with trying to make new friends because all of her friends were basically her ex's friends, and of course they kind of dropped her once they ended up breaking up, and they were just terrible friends to begin with. She meets Aurora, Henry, and all of the whole friend group from the Maple Hills series that we have seen in the past. She also has been working 2 jobs. She wants to become a writer, so she is writing a book as part of this competition, and she is the older sibling, so she has to deal with like her parents and her siblings always coming to her when they need something, and at the same time trying to navigate working 2 jobs because she works at a bookstore and at a hotel. We are introduced to like a new couple of characters through Hallie, and then we are seeing the people that we've seen in the other books in the series, which of course is Henry. Henry is our main male character in this book. He is a hockey player. He is dealing with the fact that he's the captain now, and he's kind of struggling with being a captain, and he is also not doing so well in one of his writing classes, or like English classes I guess. So Hallie is going to help him with that, and they kind of start off just forming a strong friendship. So I definitely would say it's like friends to lovers. I really like their dynamic. I think it's interesting to see Henry, which in the very beginning of this book there's an author note where she says that she's not giving Henry a diagnosis. He is who he is, and that's that. I kind of see a lot of myself in Henry because he is someone that just needs a lot of alone time. He kind of gets overstimulated, very introverted, and while he may love these people, he doesn't always want them in his space, which I think is something a lot of us can probably relate to. Like for instance, I was trying to explain this to one of my friends the other day, but I don't miss people. I love plenty of people in my life. I have my best friend and I also have my family. I could go years without seeing them and I love them to death, but I don't miss people. Like I don't feel this urge to like go and hang out with them or text or video call all the time. I'm just not like that, and I don't really know what it is. My dad also, I was explaining this to him and he said that he's the same way. Like he doesn't tend to miss anyone whenever he goes long periods without seeing them, and I feel like that's kind of probably something Henry experiences too. So it was nice to kind of see someone that I can relate to in this book. But overall, I do like their dynamic. I think it's more of like a slower paced romance. There's really not much going on in this book. They are more people driven books, I feel like. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I like it. There is one thing, it's like the fact that she is a virgin in this book, and I like that that is not harped on, or that it is not one of the reasons why our main love interest wants her, because I have seen in other books where the guy is just like, oh, she's a virgin, I can't wait to be the one to take her virginity, and it's like, ew, like I just don't like that. So that's a good thing about this book, is that it's not like that at all. It's kind of just mentioned a couple of times, and it's mostly her own insecurities. I don't think Henry has a say on her virginity, and that's how it should be. You are learning that she's a virgin through her own internal monologue. So yeah, I like it. But that's all I really have for you so far. I'm gonna keep reading and hopefully I can finish this up today. I have finished Daydream, and I feel like I really do like this story. It just felt so much more natural and realistic, the way that they genuinely just met, became friends, and then it evolved into an actual romantic relationship. I feel like sometimes in books the romances kind of come on too thick, too fast, and it's just not realistic, but I like that this one was. I really like that they just kind of really understood what each other needed without having to ask for it. Whenever Henry needed space, Hallie just could tell know that that's something he needed. She would back off, give him his alone time, and when Hallie was overwhelmed with literally always trying to help everyone except for do stuff for herself, Henry and even his friends and Hallie's friends kind of banded together to take some of that weight off of her shoulders, and I just thought that was really sweet. I did enjoy it. Do I think it's like a very memorable romance? No, not necessarily. Do I think that I have read better? Yes. I do think though that this is like a 3.75 for me. I think I like Wildfire, this, and then Icebreaker. Like that would be my ranking for it. It was still really good. I enjoyed it and I'm glad that I got to read it. But then again, I think part of it is because I literally did not remember anything about Henry. So if you do remember Henry's character and you have high expectations for him, based on other people's reviews, I think this could be kind of a letdown for you. But for me, it wasn't. So that is that one. But now we're going to move on to our final book of the video. And I am so excited to read this one. It technically is not a new release because I think it was released in like June or July, but close enough. I just really want to read it. And that is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. I have just been seeing so many people talk about this book recently, and honestly I've only ever really seen good reviews. I haven't seen anything bad about it. I have no clue what it's about. We're going in blind. I did get this cover because let's be real, when I saw that they had this cover, that's what made me want to read it, because the other cover is just, it's not it. So yeah, I have it. I'm gonna read it. It's a thick one, but I'm in the mood for fantasy, so let's see how it goes. So it has actually been a couple of days later and I finally made it 50% of the way through Quicksilver, and let me talk about what's going on. There's this girl, let me actually look at the pronunciation guide for once. How do you pronounce her name? Saris. Her name is Saris, and the world that she lives in is ruled by this like evil queen basically, and she never ages. That's the evil queen. And they're like, I feel like they're wards or districts or whatever you want to call them. She lives in the poorest one, which is the third, I believe, and like they don't have water. It's basically like a desert out there. Everyone is struggling to survive, and that's where she lives. She lives with her brother and basically like stepfather, who is a metal forger. Like he forges and makes weapons and stuff out of metal, you know? And so she has learned how to do that from him as well, but she gets caught stealing from one of the guards and she is then arrested, and basically they're gonna murder her for her crimes. But while she is in the process of dying, she is saved by a man who steps out of like the silver pool portal looking thing, and as it turns out his name is Kingfisher. Kingfisher is a fae, and once he saves her, he takes her back to the fae world to be with them, and he makes a deal with her to where, since she knows how to forge metal, she is going to start forging these relics that will allow his army to also travel through the Quicksilver pools slash portals, because apparently when you travel through them it like speaks to you and it makes people go mad. But he has a relic that allows him to not go crazy, and so he wants more for his army, and they strike up a deal. She's going to be the one to forge it, and that's pretty much all that I got so far. Kingfisher, first off, I hate that name. Like, why out of all the names is that it? I don't really care for him so far. I know he's like the dark shadow love interest that people tend to love, but for some reason the banter between him and Saris is just a little too sexual, and it's like stupid. Like they don't really like each other, so literally she'll be like, fuck you, and he's like, yeah, you almost did that one night, and it just right off the jump, that's how they interact, to where when they bicker it always turns into something sexual, which I don't love. But I do like separately like our characters. Like I like Saris because she's sarcastic and it comes off as funny. Do I think she's incredibly dumb for some of the things that she has done in this book? Yes, but I still kind of like her. I just don't like them two together. There is another character in here. Oh good lord. What is his name? I'm looking at all these names and I don't remember which one he is. Is it Bellicon? Carrion. I like his character a lot. I think he's kind of funny. But here's the thing. I really enjoyed the first 25%, not even 25%, like the first few chapters where we're getting introduced to this world. We see her stealing, she almost dies, and then she gets saved. I really liked that part, but then after, it just felt like it was getting so slow, and I don't know what it is, because when I do pick up this book to read it, like, I'm not having a bad time, I'm enjoying it, it's interesting, but I find myself just not wanting to pick it up. So that is where the issue lies, and I actually think, disappointingly, that I am going to DNF this book, because typically I just want to read something that, if it's this thick, I want to be in love for most of it, and I'm just not feeling that from this. I also think I have recently been reading a lot of like chunky fantasies, and like, why are they so big? Why are they such long stories, and why do they have to just have so many slow-paced boring parts, you know? Like, I'm kind of over it for the moment being. I think that might be what it is. So it's definitely like a soft DNF. If anyone out there tells me that they absolutely love this book and I need to pick it up right now, honestly, I'm very easily influenced, so I might, but I'm soft DNFing it. I'm literally going to keep it on Goodreads as one of my current reads, just to kind of like haunt me and tell me that I need to finish it. I do plan on one day picking it up. It's just right now, it's not the time for it. So unfortunately, that's it. I don't have anything else to say about this one. Just let me know your thoughts and opinions, and if I should keep reading it or if this is like the end of the road for me. But those are all the books that I'm going to be reading for this video, all of these new releases-ish. So let's run through it real quick. The first one I read was Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. Did not like this at all. Felt very weird and like Riverdale, as I've said. So 2 stars. Then I read The Hunted Heir. If you look at this as a novella, it's not bad, but as like a second book in a series, it just disappointed me so much. Not enough was going on, and honestly already kind of forgot what happened in it, so it's like a 3. Then I read Daydream. I really did like this romance between these 2 characters. I thought it was sweet and wholesome. Also have been a fan of Hannah Grace's writing. I know like a lot of people hated Icebreaker and doesn't think she's a good writer, but I enjoy her books, so this one was a 3.75. And then Quicksilver, which we just talked about, unfortunately it's a DNF for now, so we will see what this one holds for me in the future. But that is it for this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions if you read any of these books. As always, I am very open to more suggestions, but I'm gonna go now. So I hope you all have a great reading week, and I hope you all just have a great week in general, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!